The first Washington Commanders depth chart of the regular season has dropped, and it's already shaking things up. We've got surprising starters, unexpected shifts. We're going to dive into what all of it means on this mailbag episode of Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, David Harrison, credentialed member of the media covering the Washington Commanders for Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com. I'm here with you every Monday through Friday. I thank you for coming through today and every day, as I give you a special thank you for coming through every single day. Of course, this is your daily podcast covering the Washington Commanders. And if you haven't already, you can subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you are listening to today's episode. This is our first mailbag episode of the regular season. And in it, we're going to talk special teams, contract extensions, expectations for quarterback Jayden Daniels. And we're going to start it all off with the first depth chart of the regular season. Not any massive surprises, but some surprises nonetheless, a little bit of shaking things up. And if you want to get even more out of this episode, out of this program, all you got to do is sign up to be an insider today. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. From there, you can text me your comments, your questions, and I'll be sending you inside information, live text, and bonus content, including invitations to our insider-only Zoom conferences, which we will be having one again before this first game of the season. It's a lot of fun, so head over to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. Try it out for free for the first 2 weeks. If you like it, stick around. If you don't, I appreciate you coming through. Anyway, the group is growing on a daily basis, so make sure you're getting in on that. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. Several insiders came through for this mailbag. Opened up the mailbag. Several insiders came through and basically asked my thoughts on this initial depth chart for the Washington Commanders for the regular season. So I thought we would just basically start there, set the stage, and talk about some contextual things on what the team's current roster and positional depth really looks like. And looking at this initial depth chart, we're going to start on the offensive side of things. You got your quarterback room, obviously, Jayden Daniels, Marcus Mariota, Jeff Driscoll. No surprises there. Looking at the running back room, Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Ekeler, Jeremy McNichols. That's your first, second, and third running back. What's interesting here for a little bit is in the unofficial preseason depth charts, they actually listed 2 running back positions, not just the 1 running back position. And they had Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Ekeler listed both as first team running backs. And that's largely what we saw in training camp was, both those running backs getting involved in the preseason, the same thing. Here, you only have 1 running back position listed for the team. Brian Robinson Jr. is your first team running back, which is what we've been telling you all offseason and training camp. So that shouldn't be a surprise. Austin Ekeler is second. Jeremy McNichols is third. But I do expect Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Ekeler to both be very, very much involved in the offensive strategy with Cliff Kingsbury and helping out quarterback Jayden Daniels. So I don't think that, that doesn't mean that Austin Ekeler is going to get like 5 touches a game. I still expect Austin Ekeler to get a fair share of work, but Brian Robinson is the primary guy and probably going to be the first guy on the field for the duration. Offensive line, pretty much what we expect. Left tackle is Brandon Coleman. Left guard, Nick Allegretti. Center, Tyler Biadasz. Right guard, Sam Cosby. Right tackle, Andrew Wiley. So no surprises there. Your backup left tackle is Cornelius Lucas. Your backup center is Michael Dieter. Your backup right tackle is Trent Scott. Chris Paul is listed as both backup guards because they only kept 9 offensive linemen on the initial active roster. Therefore, Chris Paul has to fill both spots, left guard and right guard. And we know that he cross-trained as well as a right tackle during the preseason and training camp. Where it gets a little bit interesting, where we see a little bit of a shift here, wide receiver. So in one spot, call it your X receiver spot, you got Terry McLaurin as your first receiver. Behind him is Noah Brown, the newly signed wide receiver coming over from the Houston Texans, previous experience with the Dallas Cowboys. Behind him as your third receiver in that slot is Byron Pringle. In your slot receiver position, you've got Olamide Zaccheaus, who's your first team slot. And it doesn't say slot wide receiver, but it's the wide receiver listed right below the tight end. Ergo, the slot right behind him is veteran Jamison Crowder. Everything fits there. So your other outside wide receiver, your starter is Luke McCaffrey, the 3rd round rookie out of Rice. He is listed as the first team wide receiver opposite of Terry McLaurin. De'Ami Brown is the second receiver. And that's interesting just because that's not what we saw during the preseason. It's not what we saw during training camp. We did see Luke McCaffrey get some first team reps, sure, but there was really nothing there to kind of say, hey, Luke McCaffrey has surpassed De'Ami. He's surpassed Olamide as an outside guy. I think most of us kind of looked at Olamide as a slot once Jahan Dotson was traded away. But either way, didn't look like he was kind of up there in the pecking order. More so, he was with kind of Jamison Crowder, Byron Pringle, those guys in the pecking order. So Luke McCaffrey, again, for what this means for week one, for what it means for the entire season, you can't really say that. Every week, this thing could shift and change a little bit. But I think what it means for week one is, Terry McLaurin, Olamide Zaccheaus, and Luke McCaffrey are probably, if they open up in a 3-receiver set, that's probably the first 3 receivers you're going to see on the field. Noah Brown, still working his way in with the team, all of those things. And look, he is coming off of an injury-riddled season, right? He missed 7 regular season games, left a preseason game, left a postseason game, ended up on postseason IR, missed 3 weeks of training camp with an injury. So Noah Brown, like in the last 12 months, his body has taken a lot of damage. So I do expect them to kind of roll Noah Brown into this a little bit slowly, even though he did tell us that he feels pretty good. So that's kind of where the first little surprise comes in, is Luke McCaffrey listed as a first-team receiver. We'll see if Dan Quinn gets asked about it on Wednesday and during the pre-practice press conference. Not sure anybody's going to bring that up or not. Last time I asked Dan Quinn about the depth chart, he really kind of gave it's not that big of a deal, it doesn't really matter type of answer. And certainly De'Ami's going to get reps. Noah's going to get reps. Byron Pringle's probably going to get reps as well. So to a certain extent, obviously, it's very, very fluid, but still interesting to see Luke McCaffrey listed as a first-team wide receiver. Tight ends, veteran Zach Ertz is your first tight end. John Bates second. Ben Sinnott is third, and Colson Yankoff is fourth. And look, if you remember every day, I predicted Ben Sinnott would be the number 2 tight end by the end of training camp. However, as we went through camp, the tone of that kind of changed. John Bates, really impressive this training camp and preseason, certainly earned the ability or earned the right to secure that second spot. So proud of him for doing that. But Ben Sinnott doesn't take away from any of the promise that he's shown. Certainly has done a lot of those things. So flipping over now to the defensive side of the ball, your defense tackles, Daron Payne, John Allen, no surprise there. Fedarian Mathis, Jerzon Newton behind them, no surprise there. We'll get an update as to the health of Johnny Newton on Wednesday, I'm sure. Defensive ends, Dorrance Armstrong and Cleveland Farrell are starting outside. No surprises. Javonte Jean-Baptiste, the 7th rounder out of Notre Dame via Ohio State, and Jamin Davis listed as the second team guy. So again, Jamin Davis, second team defensive end. As you look forward to his future with the team, not a good sign for, unless he's willing to take backup money, which most first rounders are not willing to do so. Outside linebackers, Dante Fowler Jr. and Frankie Louvu. Middle linebacker, Bobby Wagner. No surprises there. Michael Walker is your second middle linebacker. Dominique Hampton, the safety / linebacker out of Washington, lines up outside linebacker behind Louvu and Dante Fowler Jr. Mike Sainristil is your nickel corner. Noah Igbenogany is behind him. No surprises there. Jeremy Chin is your starting strong safety. Quan Martin is your starting free safety. A little bit of a shift here from the past. Darrick Forrest in the past has been listed as more of a free safety. Jeremy Reeves has actually been listed at times as a strong safety. I always kind of thought they should be flipped, and here they are flipped. Darrick Forrest, going back to last season, if you've been an everydayer for a while, you might remember I said that he and Cam Curl had very similar skill sets. Darrick Forrest and Cam Curl did, but I thought Darrick Forrest had a little bit more versatility and a little bit more upside. Well, here he's basically the backup at what was Cam Curl's spot. Jeremy Reeves, backup free safety. Percy Butler's the third free safety. Tyler Owens is the third strong safety, although Tyler Owens, again, another Darrick Forrest, Cam Curl type who can play in the box but also cover as needed. And of course, all those backups, Jeremy Reeves, Tyler Owens, Percy Butler, Darrick Forrest, will contribute on special teams as well. Perimeter corner, Benjamin St-Juste holds down one of those starting cornerback spots. The other starting cornerback spot, Emmanuel Forbes Jr., first-round draft pick from last year. Michael Davis listed as the backup to both perimeter cornerback spots. And this is something that all offseason and training camp we talked about. Emmanuel Forbes in the unofficial preseason depth charts listed with the second team, yet he got nothing but first-team reps, nothing but preseason starts and reps with the first team. Dan Quinn told me that it wasn't a motivational tactic to list Emmanuel Forbes second, but play him first. I think it was, Dan Quinn's own words. The depth chart is basically a sign of where we are now, not necessarily a sign of where we're going to be. I think that was basically a message to Emmanuel Forbes of, hey, dude, right now we view you as a second team corner. You need to come out here and prove us wrong. I don't know that he necessarily did enough. It might just be a case of neither he nor Michael Davis grabbed hold of that brass ring. And so Emmanuel Forbes is the younger guy, shows the more upside overall. So either way, Emmanuel, Forbes, Benjamin St-Juste, your corners. Tressway is your punter. Cade York is your kicker. More on him in just a little bit. Tressway is your holder. Tyler Ott is your long snapper. Your kick returners. Byron Pringle is your first kick returner. Olamide Zaccheaus is your second kick returner, which means both of those guys should be back there to return kicks at the same time. One of them will become a blocker. One of them will become a returner. Your punt returners, Jamison Crowder, which we've been talking about all preseason training camp. He is your one true blue punt returner. So he is that guy holding down that spot. And that is what we can expect to see when the Commanders take the field against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Florida in week 1 of the 2024 NFL season. What we can also expect to see is a fairly decent showing from rookie quarterback Jayden Daniels. We'll talk about what Dan Quinn and Todd Bowles expect to see from Daniels coming up next on this mailbag episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode of Locked On Commanders is brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel over the months, days, weeks, and years because FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, so it deserves a lot of attention. Well, we've got a little something different to talk to you about right now. Right now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers, new, returning, existing, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you're going to need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel that at any time. The Commanders are currently 3.5-point underdogs in week 1 on the road against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that line staying pretty steady as of right now. So you can look at that spread or any other spread, make your $5 pick, get your 3 weeks of NFL Sunday Ticket for free. Just go to FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. Thanks to the release of the first unofficial depth chart of the regular season, we now have an unofficial expectation of what we'll see when the Washington Commanders take the field against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But we know Jayden Daniels will be on the field starting for the Commanders. So what do we expect to see out of him? More importantly, what does Dan Quinn and opposing head coach Todd Bowles expect to see from Jayden Daniels? Thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day every day. The new Locked On NFL is here. So check out the Locked On NFL podcast because it's now 2 shows every day. First up, the madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso, and then stop by in the afternoon to the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Every Wednesday afternoon, I will be in the barbershop with Wig to talk about the NFL. Add in the Locked On local experts. You get unprecedented NFL insight, hot opinions, detailed breakdowns, all in 30 minutes. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. Returning now to the mailbag here on Locked On Commanders, and insider Mike came through and said, what is Dan Quinn looking for most from Jayden Daniels in week 1? So we're talking specifics about what to watch for in this first game for Jayden, focusing on the new quarterback's role. Going back to the last time we talked to Dan Quinn about his expectations from Jayden Daniels, basically what he wants Jayden to do is just be the best quarterback he can be for this team. Doesn't want him to be the savior, doesn't need him to be the leader of the team. Jayden himself at the end of last week even telling us that he understands there's no one savior. He's not a savior on the NFL field. There's 10 other players along with him that all need to kind of get on the same page to make these plays. But there is this kind of this situation in Tampa where Todd Bowles has kind of earned himself a reputation as not being able to handle rookie quarterbacks and mobile quarterbacks very well. So specifically talking about rookie quarterbacks, Todd Bowles was asked about facing Washington quarterback Jayden Daniels and Jayden's ability to run the football. Todd Bowles said, quote, anytime you face a dual threat quarterback, it's going to be a problem. He can beat you with his legs or his arm. He was taken that high for a reason. He's very accurate, very calm in the pocket, has a good mastery of the offense from what we've seen. It's going to be tough trying to keep him in the pocket and trying to cover those guys. End quote, talking about his receivers and his running backs out of the backfield. I think that's something that's important to remember, is that it's not just the receivers on the field, it's also the tight ends and the running backs out of the backfield. I think Brian Robinson showed a lot of ability last year to impact the passing game that way. Todd Bowles was also asked about trying to game plan against a rookie quarterback. As you can tell, Tampa media really focusing on the rookie quarterback thing. Todd Bowles said, quote, I think if you find yourself just facing a rookie quarterback, the other 10 guys are going to kill you. We're facing the Commanders. We're not facing Jayden Daniels. They've got 10 other guys that we've got to worry about as well. We don't look at it as facing a rookie quarterback. We're trying to beat the Commanders, end quote. Then he was asked about how well young quarterbacks can hit the ground running. Todd Bowles said, right team, right fit, you have success. CJ Stroud was a great quarterback last year, and there were a few others. Jayden is probably going to be a great quarterback as well. So a lot of compliments from Todd Bowles. We're on to you, buddy. We know what you're trying to do. No bulletin board material coming out of Tampa to motivate Jayden Daniels any more than he already is. But since Todd Bowles took over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense in 2019, he has faced 15 rookie quarterbacks who have thrown at least 10 pass attempts. The most yardage he's given up, 470 yards to CJ Stroud just last year. CJ Stroud, not the most mobile quarterback, not like a Jayden Daniels, but certainly can do some damage on the ground as well if he really needs to. The lowest he's ever given up in 18 pass attempts, Kenny Pickett only threw for 67 yards. Bryce Young only threw for 94. So certainly he's had a success against rookie quarterbacks as well. The most quarterbacks or touchdowns a rookie quarterback has thrown against Todd Bowles defense, 5 of them last year. Again, CJ Stroud for the Houston Texans, 5 of those quarterbacks didn't throw a single touchdown. The most times a rookie quarterback has been intercepted against the Todd Bowles Buccaneers defense, 3 times Justin Fields did it in October of 2021. And the most times Todd Bowles defense was able to sack a rookie quarterback, Daniel Jones of the New York Giants, was sacked 5 times in his rookie year appearance against the Buccaneers. And while, again, I told you Todd Bowles kind of has his reputation in Tampa for struggling against rookie quarterbacks, struggling against mobile quarterbacks, he's actually 10-5 in his 15 outings against rookie quarterbacks since arriving to Tampa and running the defense. However, I suppose when you're supposed to be one of the best defense coordinators in the league, losing 33% of your matchups against rookies does kind of put a damper on that, right? That's a pretty big, that's a pretty significant, it's not over 500, obviously, but it is a significant amount of games to be lost. So what should you expect out of Jayden Daniels? I think basically what we can expect is what we've already seen. That's really all we have to go off of. Smart quarterback play, smart decision-making. Don't put the ball in jeopardy for no reasons. And obviously the defense needs to keep the score low. The offense needs to put points on the board. The further those two sides come apart from each other, the harder it's going to be, the more Jayden is going to feel the need to press and the more he's going to end up putting the ball in danger. So I think that's a fair assessment. I can't put a stat line on it or anything like that. I think if the Washington Commanders come out with a win, then I think you do see Jayden probably throw for at least 200 yards, probably throw for at least a touchdown and rush for about 50 yards and maybe another score, stuff like that. I think that's probably a realistic line if you do see the Commanders come out with an upset win. Insider Paul, continuing the Jayden Daniels conversation and potential impact and broader expectations for the season. Do I think Jayden Daniels will win Rookie of the Year? And honestly, yeah, I do. Like I kind of look at Jayden Daniels as my favorite to win Rookie of the Year because honestly, when you look at the AP polling, if Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze have really good years with the Chicago Bears, that's great. But unless the Chicago Bears come out here and like make the playoffs, challenge for an NFC North lead, they're gonna kind of bite each other, right? Like some are gonna say, nah, Rome Odunze isn't as good. It's mostly Caleb Williams. Some are gonna say Rome Odunze made Caleb Williams look a lot better. So I think they're going to kind of bite at each other. I don't think Malik Neighbors, as talented as he is going to be able to produce enough to really be a threat in that race. So I think Jayden Daniels kind of really, because he's the main rookie, like unless Luke McCaffrey just goes off for this Washington Commanders offense, which honestly, most people are going to attribute that to Jayden, not Luke. I think that he's going to have a good chance to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. As far as will the Commanders be led into the playoffs by Jayden Daniels? Will they? If you're asking me, will they? Not could they. If you're asking me, will they? I got to go no. I just have to go no because I think it's way too early to put that kind of an expectation on this team. Could they? Certainly. I think there's certainly enough talent on the team. I like guys like Olamide Zaccheaus. If Noah Brown can stay healthy, he's looked really good. Zach Ertz, he's looked great during the preseason. Well, not during the preseason because he hasn't played, but during training camp, they're very deep there. The running backs look really good. And I'm actually more confident in this offensive line right now than I was when we came into this whole thing, which is kind of weird because haven't seen the starting 5 get any reps together in actual action. So you wouldn't expect that. But just seeing the way that they were able to play with Andrew Wiley and Cornelius Lucas and remembering how much better Brandon Coleman looked than Cornelius Lucas at left tackle. So I'm like, okay, well, if they bring this guy in and these 5 guys can play, then I've got a little bit more confidence in this unit overall. So yeah, I do think it's possible, but if you're asking me will or will they not, like a yes or a no, I've got to lean no, but I will give you that there is a possibility it could happen. But what about the special teams, right? The third phase of the game, it would appear that the Washington Commanders have found their kicker. How confident am I that they found their kicker? I'll tell you that next, coming up on this episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode of Locked On Commanders brought to you by eBay Motors, who knows that passion, drive, and patience is what brings home the winning trophy for NFL teams. It's also what's going to keep your ride or die vehicle alive. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle or even level it up to peak performance if that's what you're looking to do. They've got superchargers for those looking for a little bit more oomph out of their engine. They got roof racks for those who want to haul more gear, exhaust kits for those who want everybody to hear them coming, LED headlights for everybody who wants them to see them coming, and more. Whether you're looking for speed for your car, power for your engine, or style for your ride, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you're always going to find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need, the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Wrapping up today's episode of Locked On Commanders, a mailbag episode, and we're going to flip over to the special teams part of this whole thing. Dr. Wonderful, insider Dr. Wonderful, coming through asking who will be in on kick return. So we just talked about that. Olamide Zaccheaus, Byron Pringle appear to be the two guys that are going to be back there returning kicks. I like both those guys. I like their dynamic ability. Really interested to see how the teams actually attack these kickoffs come the regular season. I think it's only going to take a couple of kickoff returns for touchdowns for teams to say, you know what, we're just going to pooch it out of the end zone, give it to you on the 30. We'd rather have you go 70 yards for a touchdown than take it all the way on a kickoff. And how confident am I that the Washington Commanders have found the field goal kicker for them? That is a very interesting question. So Cade York came over from the Cleveland Browns. It was a conditional 7th round pick that the Washington Commanders sent over to the Cleveland Browns. My assumption is that the condition to that is that Cade York is actually the kicker come week 1. And it certainly appears like that's going to be the case for the Washington Commanders. Dan Quinn asked last Thursday if Cade York is kicking against Tampa Bay and what his confidence is in the kicker. And Dan Quinn said, quote, he is. So he is kicking against Tampa Bay Buccaneers, getting here last week, getting some time down with Tyler Ott and Tress Way. That's an important piece to this because the battery, the snapper, holder, kicker, it's not just kicking off a tee. Although kicking, you think of it as a singular act, but it's the snapper, it's the holder, it's the technique, it's the rhythm of that. Knowing that he's coming into a pretty good situation, having Tyler and Tress here are guys who are at the very top of their profession and what they do. So if you were a kicker, these are the type of guys you'd want to come in with. He's got a great support from people here. He's got a very strong leg. So got a chance to really see him when he first got here, then in pregame, then in the game in the last 2 days. The more you do it, the better you feel. And he's got a really strong leg. He's bigger size for a kicker in general, but he long levers and he can really rip it. So he's off to a good start. So yeah, for now anyway, Cade York certainly is going to be the kicker for the Washington Commanders. And what's interesting is even when the Washington Commanders had no kickers on the roster, even when the Washington Commanders had one kicker on the roster, you heard Dan Quinn talking about competition. The kicking competition is still open and all those things. And I had some insiders kind of say, how can you say the kicking competition is open when they only have one kicker on the roster? So I would remind them that kickers are everywhere. And at the end of the day, your kicking production, yes, the battery is important. The snap to the hold to the kick, all that stuff is important in relation to each other. But you can still evaluate kickers as they're kicking for other teams. So for Cade York with the Cleveland Browns, he tried 2 field goal attempts, made both of them. One of them was good from 30 to 39. I don't have the exact yardage in front of me, but it was from the 30 to 39 yard range, which we've seen every Washington Commanders kicker that had a chance to kick come through here struggle from. And then he also made one from 50 yards out, and he made both of his extra points. So there's 2 for 2 on field goals, 2 for 2 on extra points. Then with the Washington Commanders, Cade York also made 2 field goals, both of those from 30 plus, one of them from 40 plus, and he made both of his extra points for the Commanders. So for the preseason, 4 for 4 field goals with some short, some medium, some long, 4 for 4 for extra points. That's about as good a tryout as you can give an NFL team. So do I think they've found their kicker? I think for now you can be as confident as you can be, right? And of course, the kickers, that's how it kind of always goes. You never really notice them unless they're struggling. I think we'll notice Cade York a little bit more, even if he doesn't struggle because of all the struggles we saw before him. But yeah, I think that Cade York has certainly earned the rights and the opportunity to be the lone guy on the team. So good to see that there. And hopefully it sticks because Lord knows NFL teams have enough things in their way to winning to have to deal with a bad kicker. Insider Merle asks, will they extend guard Sam Cosby or wide receiver Terry McLaurin during the season? So I'm going to tell you right now on Sam Cosby, no. I don't. Well, on both these guys, no. Terry McLaurin, more specifically, he's not on an expiring deal. He's still got 2 years left on his contract. So this isn't a conversation they need to have right now. And the Washington Commanders, just the way that Adam Peters has been operating, they don't want to have it right now. Guard Sam Cosby is playing on an expiring contract. And as good as I think Sam is, and as much as I would be happy to see Sam Cosby get a new contract, I just don't think that the way Adam Peters is operating this thing, I mean, he's in a rush to extend anybody. He wants everybody to look at this year as a tryout. At the end of the year, we'll see how the tryout went. We'll see how your health is. We'll see how your performance was. We'll see how you fit in the locker room, in the meeting rooms, in the media, right? Are you going to be a guy that comes out here and makes, outstanding statements that makes us look bad or are going to make us look good? All of those things are going to kind of fold in hand, and they'll decide if they want to extend a guy. I predict that Sam Cosby and the Commanders will reach a deal on a new contract and an extension during the offseason, but I don't think Adam Peters is looking to do any of that stuff during the regular season. Wouldn't be happier. I would be very happy to be wrong about both those. I would be very happy to see both those guys did extensions. But I've been here for a few years now. Adam Peters just getting here. Obviously, he knows them more than I do just from dealing with them day to day. But I don't think he's looking to get into any long-term deals with any of these guys right away. Finally, Insider Jesse came through with a touching question. My question is, what would make you happy this season for yourself? And I'll tell you right now, Jesse, I appreciate the question. And I got to just be honest, I'm already happy, man. People say living the dream all the time. I am literally living the dream. I wake up every morning, I talk and I write about football. I get to go watch a football team, prepare, practice. I get to talk to these guys about what they're doing. I get to go cover the games. I get to talk to them about the games. I get to talk to you guys about the games, interact with fans in a way that I never thought I would be able to. So I'm already happy, man. So all I wish for is happiness, health for the players, for the fans, for my family, for myself. And just, I hope everybody out there is either living their best life, as we put it, or pursuing your best life. And if you're still pursuing your best life, I tell you, keep going, don't quit. It's worth it in the end. And I wish you all the luck and success in the world as you do that. So I appreciate those questions. I appreciate all your questions here for this mailbag episode, our first mailbag episode of the 2024 regular season. And just like 2023, y'all bringing heat in the mailbag, and I appreciate it all the time. In the next episode of Locked On Commanders, it is time for Crossover Thursday. And if you've been an everydayer for a while, you know that I was a co-host of the Locked On Bucks podcast for years before I came over to the Locked On Commanders podcast. This is actually the first season where I'm not a part of the Locked On Bucks podcast. So having a crossover with the Locked On Bucks podcast, my former co-host James Jarko, is going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you come through for that. In the meantime, if you got questions or comments, anything you want to talk about Washington Commanders related, all you got to do is become a Locked On Commanders insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders to join the ever-growing community of insiders. I'm incredibly grateful and touched every time I see a new insider sign up almost on a daily basis these days. For your next listen, check out the Locked On NFL podcast. First, you get the Madman Tyler Rowland in the morning. In the afternoon, you get the Barbershop Vibes with Tony Wiggins. And again, on Wednesday afternoon, I will be on with Tony Wiggins for Locked On NFL. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. As always, thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day. Every dayers, thanks for coming through like you do. Until we speak again, if you're out and about, please be safe, be kind, and I will see you right back here next time for another episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.